Hey, what's up guys? It's Shamrocked here with a video guide for you. This is for a Darkflame Cleft on a 21, and we're just going to go through this dungeon section by section. I'll show you how our group handled each pull, and also if there's anything specific to Resto Shaman, any tips that you can use to heal up your group. Before getting started, I just want to say sorry for not making more content in Season 2. I had plans to do so back when it started, however I got sort of busy with life and I wasn't playing that much. And I also didn't have a group and I didn't want to play the LFG game, so I've kind of just been coming in and filling in for groups and friends when they need healers. That being said, I've been able to time some pretty nice keys recently, so hopefully I'll get some more guides going for you guys, but I figured I'd start with this one. So Darkflame Cleft, although one of the easier dungeons, has one of the hardest healing checks this season in the Candle King boss. Definitely the hardest when considering the most throughput needed in terms of raw healing. However, thankfully it's still quite mechanically simple, so I will show you how me and my team handled this boss. And I think so far right now in North America anyways, I'm the only shaman who's done this on a 21 without Innervate, so I will show you the best way to conserve your mana with that fight, considering that is usually the main issue that people have. Alright, so before getting into it, let's just take a quick look at the talents that I chose for this dungeon. We'll take a quick look at the class talents specific to the dungeon as well as the spec talents. I'm only going over the flex talents, not the main build, so I'm just going to talk about the talents that I think you should take specific to this dungeon that you may not normally take. Alright, first we're looking at Spirit Wolf. So Spirit Wolf will give you 5% DR, which is damage reduction, and 5% movement speed every 1 second, stacking up to 4 times when you're in Ghost Wolf, which is pretty huge because it gives you a total of 20% damage reduction and 20% movement speed if you're in it for 4 seconds or more. And even if you're only in it for a few seconds, it will give you some much needed DR to help live some one-shots that happen in this dungeon, specifically on the second boss and the last boss. And the movement speed is really nice. Not just throughout the dungeon making you faster, but it also allows you to get 3 candles on the second boss instead of just 2, which is pretty huge if you're playing with a melee group, and we'll explain that more when I get there. Alright, next, Hex. This talent you probably don't need if you have another reliable CC in the group, so if you're playing with a mage, a rogue, or a demon hunter, or anything like that, you probably don't need this. However, if you're playing with a comp such as I am, where we don't really have a reliable CC, like a long-term CC that can take a mob out of a pull, you should take this because there are some wick lighters, which are the caster ads in the first area and before the second boss, that you are going to want to CC if you're doing the red that we're doing. Alright, next, Earth Elemental. Definitely take this if you have the space for it. It's just going to give you a nice defensive throughout the fight. Once again, it will help you live the one-shots if you need to, but it's also very nice to have on Candle King. It'll just give you a little bit of extra insurance. And then Refreshing Water, so your healing surge is 25% more effective on yourself. I would once again highly suggest taking this talent. It's just going to give you a little bit of boost of healing to yourself, make you that much more immortal. You know, as a Resto Shaman, you're already pretty tanky, but this just helps out a lot. And once again, it's going to help you on Candle King. And then Seasoned Winds, you really should be taking this pretty much in every dungeon, but make sure you take this because it is going to help you with damage reduction on the Candle King boss, and every little bit will help there for sure. Lastly, I just want to mention Earth Grab Totem. So I did not take it with this group because we had different ways to stop the wallop that the Overseers do in the first area, which is the ability that knocks all the small adds away. If you take Earth Grab Totem and you use that on the last half second before that cast goes off, you can root all the ads and they won't go flying. I'll talk about it when we actually get to that part. But because we had different ways to keep those from flying away and I wasn't too concerned about it, I decided to use this point elsewhere, so that's why I didn't take it. Earth Grab Totem is also very useful on the first boss for rooting the ads. However, Earth Bind Totem, which is just the standard totem that you don't need to talent into, is also just as effective on the first boss ads. So don't worry about the root totem too much. Just take it if you have an extra point and you're not sure where to spend it. Looking at the right side talents, this is my pretty standard build. I'm pretty sure this is the exact same build I would have used the last time I made a video. The only difference is lately I've been playing with Earthen Harmony and Therasane's Resilience for pretty much every single key, except for this one. This key, I swapped those 2 talents into Ancestral Awakening just to give an extra little bit of healing in the Candle King fight. It's probably going to be about 3 to 4% extra healing, which is not a lot in the grand scheme of things, but will make a big difference for a fight like Candle King where you're basically fighting for your life every second of the fight. Other than that, make sure you have Spouting Spirits if you can. I guess the choice note would be either Spouting Spirits or maybe Current Control. Although Healing Tide is nice to have a 45-second reduction cooldown on, I don't think you need it, especially if you're running the cooldown reduction on ascendants. So I think Spouting Spirits is much more powerful throughout the dungeon, as basically your entire group will live anything tool, which you'll see me use a few times. Okay, I think that's it. Lastly, for the actual hero tree, I'm running Totemic. Make sure you're taking Earth Surge, the extra 15% healing afforded by having Earth Living on people that you can basically activate at any time with your Earth Moat if you play smart, is going to be very helpful. I also suggest that you take Pulse Capacitor, which is increased healing done by Surging Totem on Surging Totem by 25%, as well as Oversurge, which is Surging Totem heals for 100% more during Ascendance. The combination of these two cooldowns with Deeply Rooted Elements, which is every time you cast Riptide, you have a 7% chance to proc Ascendance for 6 seconds. It's going to make your Ascendance insanely powerful, which means every time you're proccing it throughout a pack, which you will proc a lot in a dungeon with the Deeply Rooted Elements talent, you are just like, your group is basically immortal every time you get a proc, and it's also going to be extremely helpful on Candle King. So once again, make sure you're talented into all 3 of those if you're trying to play the game the way that I am playing it. Alright, I think that's it for talents, so let's just jump into the actual dungeon. Okay, here we go. So once again, Darkflame Cleft on a 21. The group comp that we're using here is Prot Warrior, Resto Shaman, Unholy Decay, Rep Pally, and Havoc Demon Hunter. So immediately going into this first pull, what we're going to be doing is CCing one of the caster ads. We usually do the one on the far right. And that's where I'm going to run in and hex it, and then I'm going to immediately kick the one on the left and bring it into the pull. And then I'm going to put that as my focus target macro so that I can kick whenever I need to. And we're basically just going to rotate kicks on this guy. The Wick Lighter is also going to put a random Dispel on somebody. It hurts quite a bit, especially on a 21, so dispel that immediately as soon as you can. There is a handy weak aura that allows you to see on enemy nameplates like a little countdown timer on their abilities. So you can see, like right now it's at 3 seconds. I know in 2 seconds that it's going to do the dispel. And once that goes out, I am ready to dispel it. It's very important you dispel that quickly on this dungeon, especially if you're running this on a higher key, because that dot, in combination with any of the throw rocks from the Mole Herd, the cast from the Wick Lighter if it happens to go off, or the shout from the Overseer, will kill people. So just make sure you're dispelling that right away. Otherwise, keep a kick rotation. Make sure you're standing on the Mole Herd as a group so that they don't throw rocks, as they'll only throw at people who are ranged out of them. And make sure you have ways to stop the ads from flying away with the Wallop. And that's, like I said earlier during the talent section, if you need to, you can spec into Root Totem, and you would just throw down that totem when there's like, half a second left on the Wallop, and that should root the ads and make sure that they don't go flying. Okay, the second pull, we're dealing with 1 caster and 2 overseers, as well as a bunch of little mobs that don't really matter. So it's really important, once again, to keep a kick rotation. It's important to be watching for that dispel. And then you are going to be getting 2 roars in a row here. So you should be able to rotate your 3 major cooldowns. You have Spirit Link, Ascendance, and Healing Tide to heal through these double roars. If absolutely necessary, if you don't have a cooldown left, or your group is scared, or anybody, just maybe doesn't have a defensive, they can always hide behind one of these big pillars while the shouts are going off, and they won't get hit by anything. But like I said, with your 3 throughput cooldowns, you should be able to handle this entire pull without anybody hiding. So I chose to use Spirit Link first, Healing Tide second, and then I'll use Ascendance for the next one. However, you can use those in really any order you want to. It doesn't really matter. In fact, in general, when trying to use all your throughput talents for like any single pull or any boss or whatever, it's kind of important to use Ascendance first if you can, just because Ascendance has the shortest cooldown, so it will be up again the quickest, and it will just like allow you to get more cooldown usages when needed. But once again, not super important. You can pop them in any order you want. Just make sure that you're keeping your group alive. So I actually didn't have to use Ascendance though, because the way the tank moved the Overseer, we were able to hide behind a pillar, which just kind of happened. That doesn't actually always happen. But all right, going into the second pull, we're basically getting ready to run across once the Overseer in the front pats away. We don't want to pull it. We just want to pull this pull and the two little mole dudes that are also patting, and we're gonna run that across into the boss room. Also note, we didn't lust on the first pull. On a higher key, it's usually better to just save lust for the boss if you can. Also kind of depends on your group composition, obviously, but we just found that we had more value lusting on the boss, so that's why we didn't lust the first pull. All right, so we're gonna basically pull the boss here. We're gonna get this caster down a little bit more. once again, keeping a kick rotation on it, making sure we're standing on the mole herd so that it does not throw rocks at anybody, and we're dispelling on cooldown as fast as we possibly can. All right, I think we basically wait until the caster is just about dead. And then the tank is going to pull the boss here. This boss is pretty easy. There's only 3 things to worry about. Technically, I mean, there's only 2 things really to worry about if you're on a key lower than a 21. And you'll see I learned something pretty tragic here that results in my death. That is only true on a 21 or higher, because this does not happen in a 20. But anyways, the 3 things to worry about are the dynamite cart, which is the cart that spawns every so often that you need to kill. The entire group needs to switch to this, yourself included. Even if you can get, you know, a flame shock and a few lava bursts on it, it will sometimes help, as the timer is very tight to kill that. The second thing to worry about is the luring candle flame. So every so often he's going to cast luring candle flame on one person. The cast itself is a pretty nasty dot, especially on the higher keys. It will hurt quite a bit. Whoever gets targeted should use some sort of defensive if they have one, and you need to make sure that you're using Healing Stream Totem and Healing Surge to heal them up as much as you possibly can, especially if it happens during the dynamite cart, as you don't want them to be running around, running away, or anything like that, because they need to be focusing all of their damage on that minecart. If you get scared and you aren't able to heal somebody up, or they're taking incredible damage, what you can do is you can Spirit Link them. The third thing to worry about is this charge. So you'll see I die there. That's because I didn't even realize that the charge could kill you. Maybe I have a bad memory or something, but I thought the charge did hardly any damage at all. And that's actually just a key level difference. So on a 21, the charge will kill you. On a 20, it might kill you as well if you're not topped or don't have any defenses up. But on like a 19 or lower, if you're max gear level, that charge barely tickles. So yeah, that's my bad. I guess you learned something new even in the highest keys. But yeah, so make sure you avoid that charge and the circles that appear afterwards, which we're going to see once again here. What's kind of nice is that these circles will kill all of the adds that are standing in them. So you can always knock up, root, or stun any adds as the circles are coming out to make sure that they don't run out of them. But other than that, I mean, this fight is extremely simple. In terms of damaging the boss, I would say focus, making sure that you lava burst it on cooldown, just for the extra healing that you get for your healing surge if you're running Master of the Elements talent. And then other than that, you can probably just chain lightning. You could lightning bolt the boss if you wanted to, just to be a little bit more ethical, but the extra damage between chain lightning and regular lightning bolt is pretty negligible. So I think it's better to just chain lightning and help get those little adds down sooner, and just make the fight a little bit safer, because the more of those adds that are up, the harder the fight gets. And then you'll also see every time a mine track lights up, a minecart flies through it, and if you're standing on it, you will die. So just make sure you're being careful of that as well. All right, after this boss, this is what we call the triple candle pull. This pull's pretty scary. It's actually one of the scarier pulls in the dungeon, as these guys do a ton of damage, especially on a 21. So just like that first pull with the 2 overseers, this is another pull where we're going to rotate all of our healing cooldowns and our group defensives as well. So with this group, we have Darkness and AMZ as a group defensive, so we'll use those in conjunction with my actual abilities as well. For the first bunch of AoEs on the Gather, I try not to use any cooldowns here, just because I have literally everything up. So if needed, I can use a triple Healing Stream Totem, which is what I did there. I used one on the first one, another on the second one, and then I also used a third with Totemic Recall right away after the second one to top people up for the next set. This second set, I'm using Healing Tide Totem, which you can see. It's keeping the group up nice in conjunction with my regular heals, as well as my Healing Stream Totems. And then also, what's important is every time you Healing Stream Totem, you're going to get a chain heal. Every time you actually chain heal, which is, what you should be doing pretty much, a lot in a pull like this, you're going to be getting stacks of Coalescing Waters, which is the talent that every time you use a chain heal, you get a stack on your Riptide that increases the healing of your next Riptide by quite a bit. So if you're stacking up like your chain heals with your Healing Stream Totem and just your standard casts, what's going to happen is you're going to be having really powerful Riptides every so often. So make sure that you're utilizing those. Every time you use 2 chain heals, you should be Riptiding someone to, get a big juicy burst of healing on them. In conjunction with the Torrent talent, that's also really going to help as well. Right, so once again, you see I went through every single one of my cooldowns. I did Healing Tide first, I did Ascendance on another set, and then I just did Spirit Link at the end there. We also had AMC for a set. I think we actually flubbed the Darkness. We used it when we didn't necessarily need to, but we don't, you know what I mean? We don't really need it. It's not like that pull lasts long enough where you need more than, 4 or 5 cooldowns. Okay, this next pull is probably a pug's nightmare. This is very hard to do if you don't have people in comms, but you really need to be making sure that you're rotating CCs and kicks. So the way that we do it with a Prot Warrior and a Resto Shaman is we have Shockwave from the Warrior to disrupt the first casts. Then we use a static charge totem, or whatever it's called, capacitor totem, to stun the ads right afterwards. And then we use a knock-up out of that into the Warrior's AoE kick, and then that gives us about 10 seconds before they cast again. For the second set of casts, we're just going to LOS, means line of sight, behind this big candle, and that's going to make it so the casts don't hurt you, just because this does actually count as a wall, so if you're standing behind it, the cast won't actually reach you. Okay, once we're done with those casts and the pack is almost dead, I'm going to run to the back here into the previous room that we were just in, and I'm going to hex this little ad, and then I'm going to pull these fire ads, and I'm going to run back into the boss room. So if you have a Demon Hunter tank or maybe a mage or someone, you might not necessarily do the pull exactly like that. Sometimes the tank will pull it into the room and then you CC the ad there. This is just how our group finds it the most easy to do. The very first ability he's going to do, it will one-shot you on a hierarchy, so make sure you use Astral Shift as your defensive. Try to get Downpour on the group as well, or on as many people, and also Ancestral Vigor via a chain heal on the entire group, and that's just going to help everybody live it. For some reason, in my experience, that very first AoE he does seems to do more damage. I could just be imagining that, but that's where I die the most, so I always just use Astral Shift there just to be careful after much experience. Okay, so when these tornadoes come out, what you want to do is light or blow out only one candle. If you blow up more than one, it's just going to make the fight harder, so the group should sort of stack up, find a stack spot. It actually helps if you put down a marker, which you're going to see me do here in a second. It's easy to get lost in this room because it's one big circle that kind of looks the same all around. So just make sure that if you put a marker down, it's easier to have everybody know where to stand. Once you blow out one candle, he's going to fill the room with fire except for the section that you blew out, and then he's going to hit the section that you blew out with a fire circle, or cone rather, and then he's going to do AoE. So when he does that AoE is when you pop another defensive. You can cycle between Astral Shift and Stone Bulwark Totem as needed, and if you don't have either of those, that's when you need to Spirit Wolf. And if you can, it's also great to try and make sure that you have Downpour once again on the entire group, as well as Vigor. Vigor is easier because it lasts 10 seconds, so you can cast it well before the cast goes off. Downpour is a little bit trickier because if you are trying to use that Spirit Wolf DR, you can't Downpour too early because it only lasts 5 seconds, and the cast itself is like 3 seconds. So you really just have to sort of time it well. If you need the Spirit Wolf to live, I would say don't worry about trying to Downpour your entire group. Just let them know that they won't have it. They should have their own ways to live the fight, and you just focus on surviving yourself. One thing I didn't mention, so because we're doing ads with this fight, the 2 fire ads that came in at the beginning just need to be interrupted. When the Wick Lighter comes in, once again, it's something that needs to be interrupted, but you also need to be super careful of the dispel that it puts out. That dot is going to truck, especially on a 21, and if you are out of range of somebody, or if the dot comes out right before an ability and you don't dispel it right away, it's very likely that someone's going to die, so just be extra careful with that. You'll also notice I'm actually lagging quite a bit during this boss, which is kind of scary because of the one-shot mechanic. So I'm like a little bit scared here. Thankfully, I don't lag that much throughout the entire dungeon, but it's always fun to have happen in a 21. All right, but from there on, it's just rinse and repeat. So once again, we're using the tornadoes to blow out one candle. He's now going to light up the whole room, leave one of the pizza slices open where you blew out the candle. This is where you can just stand, get some nice DPS in, nothing's really happening. Then he's going to shoot a cone at the open slice, so you're just gonna have to move out of the way. And this cone, depending on how many he shoots out, is going to put a dot on the group. Because you're only blowing out one candle, it's just one stack of the dot, which is easy to heal through. And then at this point is where you use Vigor on the group, Downpour, and bam, whatever defensive you have. So that time I just use Spirit Wolf in conjunction with everything else. And then once again, rinse and repeat. For this Wicker Light Barrage, it's useful to try and get into Ghost Wolf before the cast goes off early, as it once again allows you to get 3 candles with that movement speed increase, which really incredible, like a super useful talent, as there's only a few classes that can get 3 or more candles. It's nice that we're one of them when we actually need to do it. If you're running with a more meta comp, like a boomkin and a mage or whatever, and a, you know, basically if you're running with range in your group, getting those candles will be a lot easier. You probably don't have to focus on getting 3, as your group will be able to help you a little bit more. Okay, almost done here. Now you can see I'm lagging again, that's great. So what's gonna happen after this fight is our Rep Pally is actually going to teleport out of the dungeon, and he's going to go full raid build, which is gonna help on the single target damage that he can do for Candle King. And you'll see he absolutely pumps during Candle King. And while he is porting out and doing that, what we're gonna do is handle this little pack that happens after this boss, which is a really easy pack. Just requires a little bit of CC. Okay, here we go. So this is another pack where you just have to rotate some CC abilities to make sure all the casts don't go off. Thankfully, these ads die fairly quickly. We are a man down because, like I said, our Rep Pally is out swapping talents. So it does take a little bit longer than normal if you're running this pool with 5 people, but still very short. These ads are, you know, super small and super easy. So we just do the same thing. We did Shockwave into Shaman Stops, Knock Up, and then Cap Totem, and then they're pretty much dead by then. Anything left over, any CCs you have, like Sleet, Rep Pally Blind, anything like that, and then if you just need to get kicks off at the very end, just do so. And if you see anybody getting targeted about to get hit, just throw a Riptide or something on them, or if you want, just chain heal the group so that they have vigor, less likely to die in case they get targeted by more than one. Okay, so now we're doing this little skip. I'm sure you've seen this by now because it's so late in the season, but you basically, as a Resto Shaman, it's super easy. Just go into Ghost Wolf, and you can jump up on the side there, and then with some movement speed, you can jump onto the stairs from that little rock. So if you're running Spirit Wolf, this should be super, super easy skip to do. I'm just going to get some food buff here because I died at the very beginning. Re-Augment Rune, and then we're going to Lust right away on the pull. Okay, so I did slow down the fight just a little bit, so it makes it a little bit easier for me to explain what's happening. So immediately as the fight starts, you're going to put down a Surging Totem, and that is going to not only heal the group via the Surging Totem healing, especially with Lust, but it's also going to put insurance on 2 people, which is also going to help carry the dot healing that happens here. You're also going to use a Healing Stream Totem. Once that one is like halfway through or towards ending, you're going to pop one more, and then you're going to pop your Totemic Recall. And that's just going to give you an extra Healing Stream Totem, and it will give you another recall towards the end of the fight. This second set, we're going to pop our Potion of Chilled Clarity, which I'll explain later. We're going to use our Surging Totem while it's active, and we're going to ask the DK to pop an AMZ, which is going to help carry you while you have the haste debuff from the Potion of Chilled Clarity. I also get a nice Ascendance proc here, which is really helpful to help heal this section. And then I'm going to pop Ascendance here as my Chilled Clarity runs out, and my group gets a little unhealthy. So the reason I'm using Ascendance as my first throughput cooldown is because it has the shortest cooldown. It's going to be up later in the fight once I start feeling a little bit dry from not having cooldowns, which you'll see when we get there. Every time the waxes go out, we try to move as a unit to get the candles to spawn in good spots. This wasn't the best candle spawn, but you know, it could be worse. If the candles spawn awkwardly like this, whoever gets the Darkflame pickaxe should try and pick one of the statues that's sort of out of the way, just to make it easier to get the rest of the statues with the link, or sorry, with the circles that you get. Now, because we're sort of spread out here and it's a little bit tough to heal, I actually pop Spirit Link. Normally, I try to save Spirit Link towards like later in the fight when, you know, it's a little bit scarier, but don't be afraid to pop it early to save the group if needed, like I did there. It's better to be safe than sorry, and then you can just figure it out later if needed for healing. Going into this next set, we actually don't use any cooldowns here. I believe I used a Healing Stream Totem as well as my Surging Totem, just once again to sort of carry the group with insurance. And I also popped my own personal, and I asked the group to pop any personals that they had. It's better to use some personals early if you can, just so you get extra uses out of them later. This fight is really just a math equation, so the more cooldowns and the more personals people can use, the less mana you have to expend. So just make sure you're being communicative with your group if needed for that kind of stuff. All right, next set of candles, we're going to drop a Surging Totem, and you can see the pattern here. Every time the candles drop, it's like a lot of damage going out. So you have to keep the group alive. Then once you get rid of one candle via the Dark Aim pickaxe, this will allow you to sort of catch up and top the group up for the purple circles that come out. And as long as those don't kill anybody, even if they get someone down to like 1 or 2 HP, you should have enough time to sort of get people back on track for the next set of candles that come out. So for that set, we use Darkness as well as Healing Tide. And then going into this set, we're going to have AMZ up again, I believe here. Yep, and that's going to carry us through this set. So the scariest part of this fight is right now when you don't have Spirit Link, you don't have Ascendance, and you don't have Healing Tide. You're basically relying on your raw HPS. This is why we use our Potion of Chilled Clarity early, so that we don't have to worry about using it later and have the haste debuff when we don't have cooldowns. And also, using it early means that you basically have a full mana bar for this portion of the fight where you need to just sort of spam all your healing because you don't have any cooldowns left. Some important, like some more sort of difficult tricks to remember. Remember your moats from your hero tree, right? So every time you put Surging Totem down, you get an Earth moat, which means the next chain heal you do is going to put Earth Living on the entire group. And remember from your Earth Surge talent, everybody who has Earth Living on them will take 15% more healing from you. So every time you put a Surging Totem down and then use a chain heal, you're very powerful for the 8 or 9 seconds that you have Earth Living weapon on everybody. So make sure you're using that properly. Also, your water moat. Your water moat, whenever you put Surging Totem down, will replicate your next healing surge or healing wave. It doesn't replicate the modifiers on them, but it's still very powerful. So make sure that you are using that as well, or just keeping in mind that when you have that sort of double healing wave, double healing surge. And then I have Ascendance come up towards the end there. Like I said, we use it nice and early, so we get it towards the end, and that was able to carry the last set. This set, once again, we're just sort of using any defenses we have left. I'm telling the group right now that, we're in the clear. I still have a lot of mana. Just use whatever they can to live, and I'll spam healing if needed. I'm also getting some really nice DRE procs, and if you want to get some nice DRE procs too, just basically keep Riptide on cooldown. Don't hold it. Make sure you're using Riptide, and then you're using those Tidal Wave surges or Tidal Wave stacks that it gives you with your chain heals and your healing surges, especially healing surge because you get the nice crit from the Tidal Wave stacks. But other than that, you're basically just healing. So I have 20% mana here, so I'm totally fine. I'm like, we can basically go for a whole nother set if needed. I also have Spirit Link coming up, and I have Healing Tide coming up as well. So if this fight were to go on a little bit longer, we would be a-okay. And that's it. That's Candle King. So I'm going to speed the video back up, and we'll do the rest of the dungeon. Okay, this next section we typically do in one pull. However, because it was a 21 and we have so much time here, and because we have a Prot Warrior instead of a Demon Hunter tank, these creepers really hurt them with the dots. So we're just going to split this up into 2 pulls, which honestly the majority of groups, unless you're pushing at the really high end, will do anyways. So, this is likely what you're going to see. The other option, like I said, is to actually just, basically the tank and a DPS that can help him pull the entire side or pull the entire room. The tank will go one side, the DPS will kind of help on the other side as needed. And as a healer, you will follow the tank and just keep him up as much as you can. Note that you can pick up a candle and run with it for about 30 seconds before it expires, and that will allow you to sort of independently run anywhere you want. But if your candle expires while you're running with the tank and you don't want to steal their candle, what you can do is you can actually just stand on somebody else who has a candle. So as long as your tank has one, you can stand directly on top of them, and that will count technically as you having a candle. Like, you won't get the darkness debuff, and you can keep them alive. This part is very scary though, like especially not if you're splitting it up, it's not that bad, but if you are doing it in one pull, this is actually probably just as hard as Candle King. It's like the tank's version of trying to stay alive. So make sure if you have Spirit Link, you're communicating with them on when they would need that. If you're not communicating with them, just drop it when you see them like drop really low or you get scared. Better safe than sorry sort of thing. And also don't be afraid to use your throughput cooldowns here to keep them alive if necessary. You can use Ascendance, Healing Tide, whatever. You won't need them until later into the final boss anyways. So it's okay to use literally everything you have in your kit here to try and keep your tank alive. But once again, because we split the pull up, it's not that bad. So every time the little guys die, if the creepers are standing next to them, they will get a massive damage buff. So as long as your tank is kiting away, it shouldn't be that bad. But when they are big, they are going to be doing a ton of damage. So that's a good spot to, you know, use Spirit Link, because if your tank is trying to kite them away right after the little ads die and they're doing a lot of damage. Also, you should be basically dispelling on cooldown here. Obviously, if your tank only has like 1 or 2 stacks, you can hold it. But if they have like 4 stacks or more, I would say just rip the dispel. That dot really trucks, so anything to help them out is useful. And that's pretty much it. I mean, we have the final boss, which we'll go through, but thankfully the final boss is like one of the easier ones this dungeon. We've already gotten past all the hard parts, especially Candle King. Like I said, I did try to go through Candle King as thoroughly as possible. Maybe it would have been better if I'd slowed it down, just give me a little bit more time to explain it. But if you have any questions, just feel free to comment, or you can always go to the Resto Shaman Discord and hit me up there and ask any questions that you want. But once again, I really encourage you, if you're struggling with Candle King, go through the video, listen to what I said and to sort of what I call out. But also what you can do is just watch the fight over. Maybe you can slow it down if you're watching on YouTube. You just play it at like half speed or whatever, and just watch the ability tracker in the top left. And I promise you, if you copy that exactly, no matter what comp you're running, you'll be fine. If you are running with a druid, what I would do if I were you is I would innervate early. Basically, when I use my potion of chilled clarity is when you would innervate, and then use your potion of chilled clarity later, like towards the middle of the fight, and then you could innervate again at the end. So I did say I was going to explain the potion of chilled clarity. This is a potion from Dragonflight, I believe. It makes it so that none of your abilities cost any mana for about 15 seconds. So it's basically your very own innervate. It's really nice for us because Surging Totem is like 10% of our mana bar. And Chain Heal is very expensive as well. So Chilled Clarity is basically, you want to use that when you have a Surging Totem ready to go so that you don't expend mana on that. The downside to Chilled Clarity though is it reduces your haste by almost half, which you really feel. It's definitely like if you don't have Healing Stream Totems up to have those instant chain heals, or you don't have any stacks of Tidebringer, your chain heal is going to take like 5 seconds to cast, which feels really bad. So that's the reason that I use the Potion of Chilled Clarity early with the AMZ, the first AMZ that we do, because AMZ DR is going to make it so that haste debuff that you get doesn't feel so bad. You should be able to keep the group alive even with the reduced haste, just because like the AMZ is there. And you also have your Surging Totem, which is carrying, as well as your Healing Stream Totems from the Totemic Recall you used on the first set. And then because you use the Chilled Clarity early, you don't have to worry about using it later when you're maybe a little bit, like the fight might be a little bit more hectic. You don't have to worry about having reduced haste there. So I just say get it out of the way there when you have a nice easy AMZ. And that's going to basically make it so that you have 100% mana when the boss is going into like his third phase. And that should be enough to carry you throughout the fight. I also, normally I should have gone over my gear at the beginning, but normally I use the Buren trinket, which is the shield trinket. But specifically for Candle King, I actually use the Moxie Jug, so I always swap that in for this dungeon, and that is also just going to give you a little bit more crit, and that's going to give you Resurgence mana back from the Resurgence talent, which is great. Okay, this boss, the Darkness, super easy. If you get the purple circle, run out and grab a candle. That's not just you, anybody in the group, run it back in, and that will keep your candle topped as long as people are doing that. If you get the purple circle on you, you also need to pop a defensive. Astral Shift is what you should use first if you have it available. If you don't have Astral Shift, you should use Stone Bulwark Totem. And if you don't have Stone Bulwark Totem, that is when you should be using your Spirit Wolf DR from the Spirit Wolf talent. Spirit Wolf plus Vigor should be enough to keep you alive. However, if you have like a Rep Pally or a DK or anyone in the group who can help you out with the defensive, like an AMZ or a Blessing of Sacrifice, you can also call for that if you need to. And then going through these actual AoE phases, the best way I find to do it is just grab a candle. When you see the Eternal Darkness about to go off in like 3 or 4 seconds, run out and grab a candle. And then after the first or second tick of that darkness cast, you should run your candle into the circle. And that's going to make sure that the candle does not snuff out before the end of the channel. Sometimes it will get really low. Like the more you wait to enter the circle with the candle, the better it is. Because if you pop the candle in after only 1 or 2 ticks of the channel, the candle will end at like maybe 20 or 30%, which is fine. There's absolutely no problem with that. You can just run out and get a candle again afterwards. But if you want to have the candle end at a little bit higher percentage, just wait until the 3rd or 4th tick of the channel and you should be fine. I would say if you have the time, if you're not like pressed for time and trying to do this boss as fast as possible, you should have a second DPS helping you with the candle during the Eternal Darkness cast. It's just for extra safety. If you have 2 people throw a candle in here, it's absolutely not going to be snuffed out. So, but other than that, healing the channel, just rotate your cooldowns. So once again, you have Spirit Link for 1 if you need it. You can use Ascendance, Healing Tide. What I find really helpful is to make sure you have a downpour primed for it, and then going into that channel, use like a healing stream totem or a regular chain heal to put vigor on the group, and then downpour off the first or second tick so that you get to use the healing, but also increase the group health by 20%, and then you shouldn't really have to worry about anyone dying. People will get really low, but that's okay, because there's plenty of time to heal them up after that cast. If for whatever reason you're not running Ancestral Awakening and instead you're running Therazane's Resilience and Earthen Harmony, you can also use Earth Shield as a DR for whoever gets the purple circle on them, the Shadow Flame Blast. So you just throw an Earth Shield on them and that will give them an extra 3% DR. It's not much, but it might save their life. And that's it. Once again, this fight is super simple. It's kind of like a victory lap once you get here, as long as nothing silly happens. And you should time the key. So yeah, this was really cool. I'm very happy we were able to time this, and I'm even more happy that I got a nice recording of a good Candle King that I could show you guys, as well as a good run overall. I think the only death was just me dying on the first boss because, I'm kind of an idiot, but all right. So if you, once again, have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, or you can hit me up on the Resto Shaman Discord, just, at Shamrocked, and you can ask there. But thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. I hope this guide helped you out, and until next time, I will see you later.